Welcome back to the Scaled Success Reptile Podcast. So it's the second Tuesday or the fourth Tuesday of the month. So that means we have a hognose breeder on tonight, and we're gonna do some housekeeping things, do some things on what is going on in the Clover reptiles world the last couple weeks since the last podcast, and then we're gonna bring on our guest. Let me shout out a couple people. So first of all, what we got going on in Clover's Reptiles. So animals are in brumation. All of my adults and some sub-adults, even some hatchlings from this year are already in brumation for about 2 weeks already. Time's flying, right? Got that going on. Still have plenty of hatchlings available for sale. Right now, I did a Cyber Monday sale that's still going on. I think you got another, probably another 10 or 12 hours left on that sale. So if you guys are interested, jump on my Morph Market. It's in the link below, in the description below. Jump on there, check it out. Message me if you're interested in something. Next week should be a good week to ship to most of the U.S. So that's what I'm saying. You guys got time to take advantage of that sale that I have going on. So we got that going on. What else? So I don't know if you guys saw on my Instagram post, I decided I'm adding some isopods to the roster. Decided I wanted to, diversify a little bit, something that's not going to take too much time or space. So for me, isopods, I already use them in some of my bioactive terrariums I have for Kenyan Samboa and bearded dragon. So we got that going on. So stay tuned here in the next couple months. I should have some of the stuff available. What else we got? Let's see some housekeeping things. So ship your reptiles. It's a partner in shipping. Use Clover's 15 on your next shipment to get $15 off. And then you can use it once per every account. It's a lifesaver sometimes. Those $15 make a difference. And then we have Husbandry Pro, another partnership of us. We want a 30-day free trial on how it works. Scan the QR code here or follow the link below in the description as well. If it tracks everything about husbandry, feedings, breeding, brumation time frames, eggs, incubation, and then once the eggs hatch, you just convert those eggs straight into hatchlings. You don't have to manually input them into any system. So that's one of the biggest benefits of this Husbandry Pro. So if you guys try it out, you guys are gonna enjoy it and not look back. And I think that's pretty much it. What we got with here going on this last 2 weeks. Same old stuff. And let me say hi to a couple people that we have on here tonight. Guys, comment below. Show Mitch of Fathom Hogs some love, and we're gonna shout you guys out. Actually, you know what? He's on his phone. It's hard for him to see the comments, so I'm gonna shout you guys out for now. North Star Exotics, what's going on? Thanks for jumping in. Nick, what's up, man? It's past Mitchell's bedtime. Oh yeah, man. I had that phone call today. It's he's weaning right now. We'll see how long we can have him going on tonight. Adrian Ramos Jr., what's going on? Thanks for joining in. TR Reptiles, what's going on, man? Thanks for joining in. Dust, man, always supporting here. Love and V-Dubs, thanks for joining in. It's going to be a good, I know there's a couple people here that are interested on what Mitch projects got going on and stuff like that. Enchanted Hogs, how's it going? Thanks for joining in. Let me see. Jose, Balls and Hogs Mutation, what's up, buddy? Thanks for joining in and tuning in tonight. Billy, B&M Hogs, what's up, bud? Thanks for jumping in again. Aisha from Herpin Hogs, what's going on? Thanks, guys. Thanks for jumping in and supporting us here on this night. So, we got one more jumped in. Head Hogs, what's up, bud? Thanks for joining in and participating tonight. Guys, I'm about to bring on the guest. If you guys have any specific questions to Mitch, type it in the comments. We're going to bring it up and discuss a lot of things on keeping, projects, morphs, and a little bit about Mitch and his background within the reptile community. All right, guys. So we're going to start this here in a few seconds. We'll see you guys. All right, guys, we got Mitch on. What's up, Mitch?
What up? What up? What up,
What
Graham?
up? You awake? You awake? We still
I'm
got you.
awake. Nicholas, you already know it's past my bedtime, bro. I'm in bed by 7 o'clock and up by 3:30. So yeah, it's way past my bedtime. I had to parlay on the smoke till after the show so I can be lively for you. Otherwise I'd be out of there. So
Hear that,
thank
bro?
you guys
Hear
for
that.
having me. Hopefully, I can bring some light to anybody who's having problems or anybody that's looking for a direction or just looking to better their husbandry or whatever you're looking for. Maybe just to check me out. I'm recently divorced and living in my van. So
Hopefully, she's not watching this because you are really going to be living in your van.
I'm teasing. I'm teasing.
Uh, I got it. We jump a couple people just jumped on. Let me say what's up to them.
All
Freddie
right, what's up?
James, all the way from
What's up, Freddie
Mexico.
James?
What's going on, man?
Que
Um,
hueta, man.
we got Vision Quest. What's up,
Oh,
bud?
all
Thanks for
right.
joining in.
Hey, what's
Um,
going on, Dan?
yeah. So, Mitch, thanks again for coming on, man. I know we talked this a couple months ago, and you were really busy. Life,
I really wasn't,
breeding,
but
all
yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah, no, we just got married a couple weeks ago, and yeah, I've just been expanding over here at Fathom Hogs, building new cages, outdoor enclosures for other stuff, so that we can expand with the hog nose and yeah, so it's been pretty hectic couple of months. Yeah, so I'm just happy to be done with all the stuff so I can move forward with all the plans and all the cool stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we're
I'm pretty
definitely
excited.
gonna touch base on some of those species that you're bringing into and you're building cages because
Oh
I think
yeah.
we've talked about it, but I think a lot of people will definitely be happy to see that you're jumping into other species and
Oh, I've been
what
into
we've
it.
done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've diversified, diversified, diversified.
sure, man, sure.
Yeah.
We got MKL Exotics from Canada just jumped on.
Oh, awesome, Mike. Sweet. Welcome.
So Mitch, we're friends, so this is gonna
We
be a
are?
good
Okay.
conversation tonight, and it's gonna be a little different from some of the other podcasts because we've talked a good amount and stuff like that. Actually, our
Yeah.
friendship we just started this year, really, right?
Yep.
Or next
Yep.
last year? I don't know.
Yeah,
Time
no.
flies, man.
I would say yeah that well, last year started and then I would
It
say
did
we've ended
develop
that
this year.
show together in January of this year,
Yeah,
and then just kind of rolled from there. Yeah. So
sure, man. Sure.
yeah, we're
So
dating now. So.
you're dating now. Nice. Oh man. So for the people that don't know you, give
Yeah.
them a quick background on how you got into the reptile hobby and how long you've been into it. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
I got into reptiles shit when I was a kid. Um, I was always out herping with a couple of my childhood friends, and then I got into bearded dragons at like I was probably 10 or 11 years old, and I joined the Calusa Herpetological Society for mentors to try to learn from some older like mentors that have been doing it for a while, and I met a couple of really good people. Um, they're no longer in the hobby. I don't even know if they're alive, to be honest with you, anymore. But they helped me get my feet wet. I think they were more after my mom because my mom would take me, and I was only like 11 or 12 years old, and I think my mom was just hot to them or something. So they like took me under their wing. They're like, "Here, come here, young man." But I learned to breed bearded dragons when I was real young in like fifth, sixth grade, and corn snakes. And my mother and I started a little small hobby business, and we bred bearded dragons and corn snakes and sold them to all the pet stores here in Naples when I was a kid. And I did that probably for a few years until I was probably almost 15 years old, and then I took another turn, but that's for a different podcast. I was reunited with my passion in 2012 when I was, what is that? that was 11 years ago, and I'm 37, so 26 years old. I got back into the hobby. I had taken about 11 years off, and I got back into the hobby, and I was looking for like what the next cool thing was. And I came across Hognose, and I was like, oh, these look interesting. And there was only a few genes, not a few, but a small handful of genes at that time. And I noticed that there was potential for all kinds of more new stuff that nobody had even really thought of. Um, and I got back into it full force in 2012 and just started buying. And I started with the hognose. I got into some turtle species. I also got into some monitor species as well. But the hognose took forefront because of the potential that I saw, not just in the market, but the potential in the breedings and what could be created that hadn't been created yet. And I failed miserably. I'd say I spent like 55, 60 grand. I think my father thought I was pretty nuts at that point in time. And I failed miserably in the beginning. Like the first 2 years, I tried breeding. I had a lot of poor mentors at this time that weren't giving me good advice. Um, and I would say probably 3 years in is when I started to figure it out. And then I met John Paul, I think, in either 2014. Yeah, no, it was like 2014. Yeah, it was because I bought my first snake from him. It was either 2013 or 2014. Maybe it wasn't a few years. It was only a couple of years. And John Paul and I started talking. I purchased an animal from him and realized that we both had more than one passion that we both enjoyed together. And we started creating stuff. And yeah, basically, because he had a collection that a lot of people didn't have, basically nobody, and I had a collection as well that um, well, not very many people had either. So we figured if we joined forces, we could really make some cool stuff that is not even being thought about. So um, yeah, I think 2015 we met up with each other after talking over the phone and stuff for well over a couple of years, and we decided to create Fathom Hogs. And we went to Daytona and handed out our business cards and shook hands with all the said hognose breeders at that point in time and let them know that we're on our way and we've got some cool stuff on the way. Um, and yeah, it really just started to metastasize from there, and creating stuff that no one was really thinking about. I think about that point in time, everybody was so focused on making snow condas, and snow supers that it was almost like they forgot about all the other potential out there. So John Paul and I steady at it, started making hets and breeding genes to other genes that nobody had even done yet or thought of. And uh, I would say 2016 or 2017, we started actually bringing some of these things to fruition. The
Before we
oxeye,
get
but
too far into like the
yeah,
the new stuff, the stuff that I think definitely started you, or not started, but like put you on the map for the hognose stuff. Because
uh-huh.
you're getting into that right now, right?
Well,
I
I'm
want
not
to,
gonna go totally. I was just kind of giving you a
yeah,
timeline,
yeah.
but
I wanted to something you mentioned earlier, like when you first started, right? The
uh-huh.
failures you had because
Yes,
of just having bad information and stuff like that, right?
correct.
Um, how did you like keep going
Mitigate
even
that.
after, or
Oh,
no,
dude,
just keep going after that?
I wanted to quit. And my father, at that point in time, my father and I had taken over his painting business, and him and I were making really good money slinging paint. And my father thought I was crazy. He's like, dude, you haven't even made any money yet, and you've spent all this money. And I said, but Dad, dude, I'm like right there, dude. Like I'm almost got this figured out. And dude, I was very discouraged. I told myself if I don't produce anything the third year, I'm quitting. I'm just gonna sell everything and quit because it was very frustrating catching slugs and listening to these other people's advice. And uh, what it ended up coming up of it is I realized these people that I was getting my advice from were giving me poor advice because they did not want me to succeed. They did not, they just like taking my money and keeping me, stuck where I was at, not producing. I think the first 2 years I got several hundred slugs each year. And then my third year, I finally produced like 50 something hognose. And I was like a pig in shit. I was like, holy crap, here, I finally did it. And I think the best thing that helped me out the most was meeting John Paul. John Paul put me onto this paper that was written by Dwight Platt. It's called The Natural History of Western and Eastern Hognose Snakes. And it is a research paper that was done. It's nobody's opinion. It is nobody's husbandry. It is pure raw data from the wild on Western and Eastern hognose snakes from a scientific aspect, and that's all it was. It does homing range, morphology, gut content, like what they're feeding on. They even put tracking devices in these animals to see where they were staying majority of the day and when they would come out. It was a plethora of information for me to get my hands on. And once I got that paper, I think that's what turned around my whole success because not I'm no longer taking somebody's opinion on how things work at their house or what they do, and I'm now getting raw data from how these things operate in the wild when they're out, what the temperatures are, what the surface temperatures are, all the way down to like gut content, like I told you on their diet and everything, and that's what turned my whole program around. So once I understood the natural history of these animals, I then was able to adjust my temperatures and my setup and become successful. Um, because the information that was out there, there was none. There literally was none. You literally had to trust the people you were buying from that they were giving you, correct information. And at that point in time, to be fully frank, like there was way more bad seeds in the hog nose than there are now. And it seemed like they were all like in cahoots. So it was a breath of fresh air to finally turn my situation around, given some good data and some good guidance from John Paul. And yeah, and from then on out, the success just soared. And still to this day, dude, I always am changing things. I'm always looking at what can be not corrected, but perfected. And
Mhm.
you'll never be perfect and you'll never get it perfect every time, but you can always strive. You can always strive to take it to the next level. And maybe this year it's your fertility, or maybe this year it's, your your um your husbandry, or the way you're keeping them per se, uh, whether the substrate you're keeping them on is adding enrichment or any other type of enrichment that will basically correlate more like better success.
Mhm.
So, um, I forgot where I was going with that, but yeah, it took me a little bit, man, and it was really frustrating at first because hognose are not the easiest snakes to breed, and it's like a learning curve, and it was tough in the beginning. It truly was, but I would say
I could
now
just
we have a
imagine.
good, yeah,
Like
now we have a
that's
good group.
11 years ago, right? Like I could just
Yeah,
imagine that.
yeah,
I mean, even to this day, like that Dwight Platt paper. Um,
yeah.
I've skimmed it. I've never really read it. I skimmed it. It's a lot of information, a lot of
Oh,
raw data to take in.
yes,
Um,
it is.
you know, how many times have you read that thing, or do you still even pick it up to this day sometimes?
I
Or
still pick it up to this day. I think I looked at it. I'm trying to think what I was arguing with somebody about something. I don't know if it was diet or I think it had to do with diet. I picked it up like 5 or 6 months ago, um, just to prove a point and show somebody the data because they have a gut content in there, and I don't forget what we were arguing about. I think it was like rodents being like one of their primary diets, and it's like makes up 7% in that in that gut culture that they pulled
Mhm.
from that animal. Um, and so yeah, I still revert back to it because, like I said, I'm always changing stuff. I mean, I talk with Eslin over at Exotic Fire Hogs constantly, and he's always trying to do the same thing, just make things better, and like raise the success level a couple percentages higher, you know. I think we all are. So we're always changing things around, trying new things, seeing if these temperatures work a little better with the hatchlings. Like it's always something. It just never stops. So yeah, that is something that I constantly, not so much anymore. I would say maybe it's a couple times a year now, like going back to those research papers, but it is always a staple with us over here at Fathoms. That's just how we've been able to fine tune what we've got going on. So
That's a little gem that you just dropped, that paper,
yeah,
because I
yeah,
think not many people know about it.
yeah.
Um,
It's hard, kind of hard
and
to find, and I wish I could give better direction on how to find it. I don't know if you can Google search it now.
I have a file of it, if I'm not wrong.
It's a PDF, correct?
Yeah, so I have a PDF. So if anybody's interested, hit me up and I can email
All
you a
right,
PDF and
cool,
stuff like that.
perfect. There we
Yeah.
go. I don't have to try to remember where it was or where John Paul found it
Yeah,
originally.
I found it. I forget. It was like you said, it was obscure to find that thing, but I
Uh
found it and
huh.
I saved it. So I have it if anybody's interested in it. You know. And
Yeah, it's definitely some good information, especially if you're having trouble with understanding, anything that you're going through, whether it's like, your snake's not really eating, or if you just want to understand why these animals prefer a tighter, smaller space, or why they excel in that space. And it really gives just pure raw data, and it makes a lot more things make sense when you're trying to understand, breed, keep, and be successful with your hog nose. So.
you know, and one of the viewers here had a question, which is usually I like to ask this question too because it's podcast called Scaled Success. It's not overnight, right? Like things happen. You've been doing this for
Oh
12,
yeah,
11 years now, right? Um,
something like
and
that.
you talked
Yeah.
about um the troubles you had at the beginning.
Uh-huh.
Was those years your biggest like obstacle, or was it further in the next couple years and stuff like on either husbandry or the breeding process?
I would say those years were my biggest obstacles because it was frustrating, man, especially, you spend good money on a lot of these animals and you're not getting any result other than slugs. And yeah, I would say those were my biggest obstacles was the first couple of years. Um,
What was,
Trying
if
to
you can
think what.
remember, what was
Mhm.
like the biggest thing that maybe you were doing wrong or that just didn't, had you have getting those slugs maybe those first 2 years?
Well, for one, these people were telling me to keep my hot spots at like 90, 92, and like hot. And I'm pretty sure I was burning up all my male sperm because nobody told me the males should be kept cooler. Nobody told me, they just like, oh no, those temperatures are too low, or it was just a lot of misinformation. And I do remember it. It had to do with my males. Because I was getting locks and stuff like that. I just was getting slugs on slugs on slugs on slugs, and I just didn't understand. I brumated them. I did everything that I thought I had to do to be successful. And what it came down to was my males. They were being kept too hot, and I was burning up all their sperm. And that's what that. And then also after reading some of those papers, I realized that more than one male is better. So that was another revelation in my journey was finding out that you can't really trust one male year in, year out to do the job. With hognose, some people might disagree with me, but I feel like you need to be male heavy more than anything, especially if you're trying to bring projects to fruition. You can't really trust one male to do the job um, on multiple females, let alone just one. So I picked up that if you put other males in there with the same genetics, of course, or if you don't have that ability, you could just use another male as a way to get the male you would like to breed to show more interest in the female. Because once there's another male in there, it incites competition, and then they're both struggling to try to get on the female and get locked up with her. And you can pull the one male out that doesn't have the same genetics if you don't have the ability to have uh, multiple males for each project to run on these females. Um, but I would say that was probably w one of my hurdles right there was fertility and keeping my males warm and then figuring out that I need, a couple males to get the job done for sure, 100%.
Yeah. And that's one good thing you mentioned right now, being having extra males. Because
Hmm.
you see the sales of hog nose stuff that, and what's the first people want to take? The females, right?
They want to buy
Right.
all the females so that
Some
they can
females.
start raising them because they take longer to
Mhm.
get to breeding size, which is understandable. But yeah, if they don't have the insight, then they try to do like one male to like three plus females, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And like, yeah, with most colubrids, you could get away with that, no problem. Even, some boas and pythons and stuff like that, no problem. You know what I mean? But with the hognose, like, don't get me wrong, I've had some gangster males, dude, that would do 5 to 7 females, no problem. But they're more few and far between, in my opinion. Um, than from what I've seen at my house.
Yeah.
So I always will run 2 to 3 males on the females that I want to go, and I'll cycle them. Like almost, I'll sit in my hognose room during breeding season. I know a lot of people are like think it's stupid or whatever, but I'll smoke a fat doob and just sit my ass on the floor after I pair and watch, and just watch. And if I see a male not doing anything, I'll move him on to the next bin. And if I still see him doing nothing, I'll grab a male with similar genetics and put him in there with him. And if I still don't see anything, I'll grab a third male and put him in there and do like, like the garter snakes do, you have like the breeding balls or whatever. But it incites competition. Normally I don't have to even go that far, but I've done it in the past. But I'll cycle my males through and I'll watch for activity. I'm not going to waste my male on a female if he's staying on the opposite side of the enclosure, you know 3 or 4 hours after I put him in there. It's like he's got zero interest, so
Mhm.
why waste him in there with that female when he's just sitting on the cool side and she's on the hot side, when he could go to work in another enclosure, you know what I mean, where he is interested and he is wanted.
Yeah. No,
You know
and
what I
that's a
mean?
yeah, that's a really good point because, like you said, you might be betting on that pairing to go that year, and you have
Hmm.
one male, and it doesn't happen. Sometimes it just doesn't. Right, like the male is not interested in the female, or the female is not interested in the male, and there goes
Yep.
that breeding. You know, and
Yeah,
it's
exactly. And then here comes the slugs. And then you're like,
yeah.
well, what did I do wrong? And you're like trying to scratch your head, you're trying to figure it out, and it
That
can be
that being
very
said,
frustrating.
yeah, you watching them. Do you
Yeah.
watch for locks, or you just watch the first, time of behavior and stuff like that?
I mean, I'd like to see every lock, just like everybody else, to feel, some sort of assurance that it's the deed is done. But you even see locks and get slugs. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm not necessarily looking for the lock. I'm looking for the interest. I'm looking for the male doing his little dance, the female doing hers, and him digging his head in her side and getting on her back and putting sperm plugs all over her back. That's what I'm looking for. Once I see that, I'm like, okay, perfect. But most locks, I don't know if most people know this or not, but most locks you'll see at nighttime. You go in there at night and they'll be locked right up. You'll be like, oh, damn. Um, so a lot of the time you don't really see it per se during the day. I go in there multiple times a day during breeding season. I'm like kind of very obsessive. So I will be in there throughout the days just, and I know a lot of people don't have that kind of free time, and a lot of people just pair them and then off they go to work, and then when they get home they're like, I hope it happened. So I do understand that not everybody has the ability to sit there and watch. They either got kids or they got a job, or they have something else that's pulling at them. But what I would recommend is trying to take the time, if you're going to breed and you're going to do all this stuff, do the research, talk to people, and sit with your animals and pay attention. It does you no good just to buy them, set them up, and then hope for it to happen. Honestly, I mean, that's like a prayer and a wish, in my opinion. So yeah, even if you don't have the time during the day, maybe at nighttime where you'll see a little bit more action, um, pay attention, watch them. If you don't see the interest, move them around, add a male, that type of thing. And that's really been a great bulk of my success, is just paying attention uh, during the breeding times of the month,
Yeah. And
or
have you
breeding times of the
noticed?
year, excuse me.
Yeah, have you noticed if like introducing them better, either later in the morning, or I mean early in the morning, later in the afternoon? Does it matter? Have you noticed that?
Um, it does. Like I said, most breeding stuff happens at nighttime. From what I've seen. I mean, I've seen locks in the day and I've seen tons of activity during the day, but the I would say the great bulk of it is once the lights go out, or about to go out. Um, I don't know in the wild. I don't in that Dwight Platt. It doesn't really give too much information on what we're talking about the actual breeding, because I don't, you know what I mean? They're field collecting and they've got tracking devices on them and stuff like that. I believe there is one section in that Dwight Platt paper that talks about dens and them finding them in these dens, um, and there being like a group of them hibernating together in these dens. Um, so I know that I'm pretty not I know, but I'm pretty sure they do in the wild. They do a lot of breeding during hibernation, when they're underground, or wherever they're sitting. I'm pretty sure that's like a like a real deal in the wild. But as far as captive bred husbandry and everything, I would definitely say either first thing in the morning or evening times. Um, and nighttime is probably the bulk of your action, which would be the bulk of your action for any colubrid in the wild, anyways, because normally daytime's too hot, you know,
Hmm.
where you would see, when you go herping, a lot of the time, unless you see like alligators out sunning or other animals out sunning, you don't really find snakes per se in the dead heat of the day. So I think the same rules apply, as far as
Yeah,
breeding in captive bred, or in a captive bred situation.
see,
Um,
that makes sense, right? Like they feel more
yeah,
secure. They're out there, and it's just a natural.
and it's
Um,
cooler.
yeah,
The temperatures
it's
are
natural.
different.
Hmm. It's natural
Hmm.
evolution of their behavior. Their breeding behavior too.
Hmm.
Like you said, this year when I bred, I saw the lots that I did see were like super early morning, like either 5, 6 in the morning, and then we're done.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
super early.
yeah. So that's what I've seen too. But I do sit in during the day, like first thing in the morning. I mean, dude, it doesn't matter what time of the day. I'm just obsessed. So I'm in there all different times of the day just watching. I've had a couple of breeders like, watch for what? What are you gonna watch for? And it's like, what do you mean? What do I mean? You know?
Like, does not
I,
everybody doesn't don't you guys sit here, and I
yeah,
did
no,
that,
I kind of I kind of felt
Yeah.
stupid. I was like, "You guys don't do that?" And they're like, "No, I just pair them and I leave." I'm like, "Oh, uh, I guess I'm
See,
stupid."
I did that this year, and I thought, especially before we really started talking and stuff like that,
Hmm.
like I thought it was just me being newer and just being, amazed with the uncertainty of like, was I doing this right?
Hmm.
But it's good to hear that somebody else does it too.
No, obsessively, man. I know John
Yeah.
Paul does it too. He gets up. John Paul sets his alarm for the middle of the night and gets up and goes in his snake building. I'm like, I'm sorry, my sleep is. That's the one time you're not gonna disrupt me. Like I'll go in there at night before bed.
Yeah.
A couple times I've been in there in the middle of the night, just going in and checking on things, making sure temperatures are. But John Paul sets his alarm religiously either to turn bins in his dishwashers and make sure he's getting ample time out of his dishwashers, or he's in there watching the animals.
Mhm.
So I know he does very much a lot of the same practices I do. He's equally obsessed, and that's kind of why we joined forces. Like we both geek out on this stuff hardcore. I mean, with not just with the hognose, but with all of our animals. It's like it's a it's a double-edged sword, I'd say, for sure, because I know
No, for sure.
the loved ones don't like it. They're like, "You were in there all day." You're like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
but 10 more minutes. I almost
I,
seen it."
yeah. It's funny. But you know what, man? I think you
Hmm.
have to be to a certain point. You have to be like that to be able to produce and be successful in this reptile hobby and stuff like that.
I
In
think
the
that's
industry.
with any type of industry,
Mhm.
man.
Yeah, that's
If
true.
you're passionate about something, you're obsessed. I mean, I think
Mhm.
passion equals obsession, and passion is just a nicer way of saying you're obsessed with something. If you don't have the passion, it loses its lackluster after 2 years. I mean, I've seen quite a few people that come in and leave after 2 years, because they just weren't obsessed. Yeah, they might have been passionate in the beginning, but I don't know that. To each their own. Not everybody is obsessed,
Mhm.
um, as they might think they might be, but yeah,
And that's
I'm
the thing.
truly
Like
obsessed.
a lot of this stuff starts off as a hobby, right? Like I don't,
Hmm.
at least personally, people that I've talked to, breeders and stuff like that in the hognose community, I've never met somebody that's just said, "Well, I got into it just because I got into it," because I wanted to make the money and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure there's people out there, right? And those are the people
Oh
that
yeah, there's tons of
in and
those.
out, right? Yeah, and those probably the people that do it for a couple years and then lose the luster and move on, right?
Yep.
But for the people that I've really talked to and stuff like that, it's always started as a hobby, started as a enjoyment of working with these animals, keeping them, and then
Hmm.
it evolved, right? As that.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, it does evolve. I
mhm,
remember that first year I produced, and I remember everybody saying, "Man, these things sell like hotcakes, dude. I can't even keep my hands on them, dude." And I'm like, "Oh, cool." So I post some for sale, and I'm like, I don't get any bites. I'm like, I've had these things up on King Snake for a little while and put them on fauna classifieds, get a couple of hits, no real interest. And I'm like, dude, am I missing something or something here? Like, I don't get it. I thought these people said these things sell. And then I realized that there was more work involved to take it to the next level, to take it from a hobby to a business or a hobby business. I realized real quick that people were buying, but they were buying from the brand names. And I was like, and then I had like this aha moment. I was like, oh, dude, we need to brand ourselves. I'm like, yeah, we can sell these snakes as Mitch Davey and John Rice. Sure, I'm sure they'll move. But I realized real quick that we as a society are in our culture here in America, not even just in America, I would say this is worldwide, um, is we are conditioned for branding. You're gonna look for brands, down to your clothes, to your jewelry, to your car, to everything. Like here in America, we're conditioned for brands. So I was like, man, we need a brand. We need a name. We need to do marketing. We need to take pictures. And that was the next step from turning it from, and I try to teach this to everybody. Anybody who buys snakes from me knows, like, dude, I will freely give you everything that I learned the hard way, and you just have to get on the phone with me, and I'll teach you everything that I've learned. And I'm not telling you that I'm any better than the next person, but I have learned that if you're gonna do anything passionately, you need to brand yourself. You need to market yourself. You need to take pictures of your animals, show off their colors, get the right pictures with the right coloring, get your logo in there. And whether people put one like on it or 500 likes, it don't matter. They're going to see it. So I worked diligently after I created the name Fathom Hogs. And John Paul didn't even like it at first, so I was really kind of heartbroken. He didn't even really like it. And anyways, fast forward, we ended up hiring a couple of people to come over and take pictures of the animals and help us develop our logo and watermark our photos. And I just started spamming Facebook and Instagram, spamming. And it didn't matter to me if I got one like or 500 likes. I knew I was getting the word out. I was getting, and then started doing shows and getting our name out like that, passing out business cards. Like I told you, the first Daytona we went to in like 2015, uh, it was either 2014 or 2015. I can't remember, but we passed out business cards. We didn't have a booth. We didn't have anything. We had T-shirts that I made and business cards, and we walked around, shook hands, and handed them out. And that's kind of how we got started, and then doing the Repticons and John Paul and I traveling in this van and sleeping in here like a couple of little what boys and traveling around the United States and pushing our product, our snakes that we had created. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. Like I remember when we first started making the het permafrost stuff and the sunset stuff, and people were like, we hadn't made the visuals yet, and people were asking us, well, what is it going to look like? And I'm like, I don't know. It's going to be cool though. I mean, they're like, yeah, I'll wait until you make the visuals. And I'm like, oh God, okay. And now we couldn't even hold on to permafrost stuff anymore. You can't even hold on to sunset stuff anymore. But in the beginning, it was kind of a struggle without giving anybody any foresight or having any pictures of these animals because they didn't exist yet. So it wasn't easy, I'll tell you. It definitely was scaled success.
There
Cut
we
for
go.
commercial.
Talking about that, let's get the likes up. Go ahead, take the moment right now, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you guys follow Mitch on Instagram and stuff like that. But you know what? That's very important point that you brought up. That it's not overnight, and even today, right? There's a lot more people breeding hog nose.
Yep,
So there
a
is
lot.
more in the market. There's more people.
Hmm.
There's more animals for people to choose from. When you go on
Hmm.
Morph Market, when they go on Instagram, wherever it is, right? Even to the shows now. So even
Yeah.
now, like you said, don't get discouraged when you're starting to breed and your first year, your cells are slow and
Or
but
you get all slugs. Yeah.
you get all slugs. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true, right? You get all slugs. It's part of the process, I think, and you're gonna have good years and you're gonna have bad years as well.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but I think put in the time to promote your business if that's what the route you want to go as a business.
Yep.
is very important. It doesn't happen. You can't just breed snakes, put them on the internet, and hopefully people find them, right?
Right.
And I think that's where there's might maybe a disconnection sometimes with that.
Yeah,
And
there's a
yeah,
huge disconnect. It's pretty prevalent. Because like I told you, I'll teach this to anybody. You don't even have to buy anything from me. I'll teach you everything I know. But after watching my customers purchase and then replicate what we're doing, there's a very small percentage of them that take heed and move forward with the information as you've given it to them. And then the ones that don't, they're like, "Oh, bro, I'm not moving anything." And I'm like, "Well, did you make your business logo?" "Well, no, I'm still working on it. I don't really like it yet." "Oh, okay. Did you take pictures? Do you got the Instagram page? Do you got the Facebook page? Are you sharing in the groups? Are you active in the groups? Are you talking with people?" "No, I'm not." "Okay. Well, this could be your hang up, but that is probably one of the biggest lessons in business that I learned right off the rip was marketing and branding. John Paul and myself, and that helped us put ourselves like solidify our spot in the market.
yeah. And you know what? What's nothing too is like I know, like we were talking earlier, it starts with a passion and obsession about an animal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if you want to go towards a business, don't be afraid to do it. You're not selling out, or you're not, if you're still taking care of your animals, you're still, giving them good husbandry.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about it running a business because if you want to be successful, you have to run it like any other business. You know,
Correct.
you have to have profits and losses. You have to have certain standard operation procedures and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That same things you do over years, so you can be successful, not just one time, but keep it going, right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I do a lot of different marketing. I mean, I'm sure everybody's seen my stickers, seen my shirts, and some of them are like, that makes 0 sense, has nothing to do with Hognose. But check this out. When you see my stuff, whether you like it or not, you're gonna remember it. And it's definitely gonna make you feel some kind of way. And the closest way to make a mark in any type of industry is to touch somebody's feelings or to make an impression. Um, Most of the time, you'd like it to be good. Um, some people might not perceive your vision the same way you do, and that's fine. That's the beauty of um, this country, anyways. Is to each their own. Everybody's got their own opinion, and um, but that has really set us aside, and people now collect our stickers and our t-shirts, and a lot of them are just humorous, for shits and giggles and that type of deal. But it keeps people, you're in their forefront of their mind, whether they buy a snake from you or not, or they come to the booth, they get a t-shirt or some stickers, they're gonna remember. And then the next time somebody says, "Oh, dude, I want to get a hognose. Oh, dude, I met these freaking crazy weird guys at this show, and here's their sticker. Look them up on the internet or whatever." You know what I mean? So like these little things that you can do to get yourself out there and make an impression in somebody's mind might not be like immediately, you know, producing anything for you, but it will definitely down the road, if not right away. You know what I mean? With some of the marketing and some of the neat stuff that we do. I mean, John Paul and I do all kinds of different. So I mean, we didn't do this last year, but we used to hold raffles at the booth and um, to give stuff away. We do a lot of stuff for US Arc and stuff like that, and get into their raffles, and it's all kinds of different tactics to get your name out there and um, and propel yourself
yeah,
in your business into the future for sure.
yeah. Along with the animals, right? We're having quality animals, stuff like that. But that's a very good point because I've heard even like in the ball python community, right? Like I've heard the people that have the same time frame, right? 10 years ago or 15 years ago that are still relevant and successful today did that. Push their
Yeah,
brand, push their name and all out there and stuff like
yeah.
that. What's up?
What happened to
There
you,
we go.
bro?
I'm back. I'm back. I'm back.
Don't leave me
Um
here alone. I'm scared.
um man, what was I saying? Oh, putting your name out there and stuff like that. So, you're definitely giving out some good information tonight and stuff for that. Um, was to say shows. That's another big thing too, right? Like doing shows and you know sometimes not even maybe not having a sale or one animal or something like that. It's important to do shows. That's another way to get your name out there.
Hmm.
I think even if you have one table, you have 10 animals. That's still at least
Hmm.
you're out there, right? And you're doing it and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's always good exposure whether you have nothing and you just got business cards. It's always good to post yourself up at the shows,
mhm,
shake some hands, meet some people, like-minded people, and get push your brand.
yep, for sure.
So it's not always about the sales. Like, the sales are good, but just getting yourself out there, getting your feet wet, because you know as well as I do, setting up for the shows and then standing behind the table and trying to remain charismatic for an 8 hour day is kind of difficult. Especially, towards the end of the day and stuff. So it's definitely something you want to get your feet wet with so that you can get familiar and that each time it becomes easier and easier.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, once you have your name out there, you could just be selective on what shows you want to do too, right? Like,
Correct,
and
correct.
then, you have a customer base that knows where
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be at, can message you, can look at your morph market, stuff like that. And that's
Yep.
where, you and John are at this point, right?
Yeah, yeah, we quit doing the smaller shows. Not that it's not, advantageous for us. It's
Mhm.
just, with the collection, the size of our collections at this point, it's harder to get away now to do more shows and set everything on pause. You know what I mean? I have my wife works for me here at Fathom Hogs at my location, so it's just her and I, and then it's John Paul and AJ at his location. And even with two people, it's still pretty tough just to be able to break away for a weekend, and that also depends on how far the travel is too, So sometimes you're traveling 18 hours one way, to go do a 2 day show. And yeah, it's kind of nerve-wracking, especially depending on the time of year, whether you've got, babies hatching or you got eggs incubating or you got breedings going on or whatever the case may be, or you have different species that go different times of the year. So it makes it more difficult the larger your collection gets to be able to leave and do the shows. So I would say that's more of the reason why we backed away from the smaller shows. Not that we are this big entity now that we don't need to do them. It's just now our collection demands more of our time, so it's harder to get away.
That's a good insight. Yeah, I
Hmm.
could just imagine, all the time. And like you said, it's yourself and your wife. So it's two people, and then same thing at John's place, two people managing you guys' sizable collection and stuff like that. And it's a
Hmm.
lot of work, and you have other species as well too that you're working with.
I do. Yeah.
I'm gonna do my first show, my first long show in I think it's April or March to Arlington,
Nice.
Texas. So that's gonna be
Nice.
a experience, hauling everything up all the way out there. So I'm definitely gonna pick your brain before that
Yeah,
happens.
dude. No problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's fun. It's I would say traveling and doing the shows it's fun. And definitely getting to meet new people I mean, you'll see a lot of the similar faces at the shows, but as you travel and get away from, um, your home base, which would be Florida for us, but yeah, it gets pretty interesting, especially, traveling a ways, whether it's Arlington, Texas, or it's Hamburg, Pennsylvania, or, Tinley, Illinois, or whatever. Um, or I think this last year we sent AJ to California, and I forget which
The
show it was.
Super Show, was it?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
hmm
yeah.
But
That's another one I wanna hit up too. That seems like a pretty interesting show.
yeah, it's pretty fun, especially, meeting people that you've been talking to online for years and putting a face with their name. And yeah, of course you can see their pictures on the internet and all that good stuff, but it's even more refreshing to meet these people in person. You're like, "Oh shit, this dude's way taller." This is the one I get all the time. "I thought you were taller." I'm like,
Like, it's funny. You
okay.
you commented on, I think, a Facebook post of the podcast today. He goes, "Who's that short guy?"
Yeah, that's me.
No, but you can say seeing people in person, it's a whole different dynamic, man. You know,
100%.
Daytona, is that your show, you would say?
Yeah,
Is that
that's
like
our
that's
staple
your favorite
show.
show? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. We're just so well grounded at that show, and everybody kind of knows like what we do. So it's very much looked forward to. Like I said, we try to do raffles, we try to get involved with the US Arc auction, and it's like a whole weekend of events. So it's very cool. And we kind of got our own little thing that we do. We also go herping. We get up there early, so we go spend a lot of time together and do a bunch of outdoor stuff, herping and kayaking and um, a lot of nature boy stuff
Yeah.
with each other, so that it's not all business. It's we try to keep it
It's a
fun. We try
long
to keep.
weekend, yeah. It's a long weekend
Uh-huh.
with everything, all the activities, the vending and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long weekend, but I enjoyed it. This was my second year going. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it was fun, man. And then
Yeah.
this year too, I helped as an event and stuff like that. So that was interesting too, sitting behind a
Mm-hmm.
booth, for 2 straight days and stuff. Um,
Yeah, it's
um,
definitely a good show to get your feet wet too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's a lot of colubrids. There's a lot of different species too. It's not just all ball pythons or one specific
Mm-hmm.
kink. There's a good mixture of everything there. So that's
Yeah,
another
there
fun
is
part. Um,
a very good mix of a lot of stuff.
when I had a question because like when did you see your turnaround of all the hard work that you had put in, like really see like okay, this is really becoming successful? Around what time did you see, and was it with a certain project or?
Um, I would say around 2019 and 2020 was when I started to see things really come to fruition. That was when John Paul and I's a lot of our projects were coming to fruition. Um, I would yeah, somewhere between 2018 and 2020 um was a lot of our projects coming to fruition, a lot of stuff that nobody had seen yet. Stuff we had been talking about working on. Um a lot of the sunset stuff, the pink pastel stuff that I worked with personally, the super Arctic PPAs, which we call the galaxies, um, the sable PPAs, which we call the sunsets, oxides, permafrost. Once people saw all these morphs that we were creating, that's when the real traction started uh, like gaining steam. Once people saw it come to fruition, it was like night and day, and it was like as soon as the people saw something, they're like, "Holy shit!" I gotta have hets, or I gotta have visuals, or I gotta, and that's when I would say that we started to see some real traction and interest was when a lot of the stuff we had been working on finally came to fruition.
Yeah. I mean, personally, the permafrost. That's like right now, that's like one of my top dream
Yeah.
animals to produce, and still to this day, there's not many people producing them, right?
No, no, it's hard. It's a hard one to hit. 1 in 64 if you're doing triple to triple het. So it's, and even when you do a visual to a het, it can be a little mind-boggling. You're like, wait a minute, I don't have any permafrost in
It's like
here.
the morph market calculator didn't work out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Morph Market lied to me, man. Um, yeah, I would definitely say permafrost is one of like like super badass things that we've created. Um, I'm trying to think what else. Um, Permafrost oxides, the toasted caramels. We didn't produce those initially. That was John McKell's, and but yeah, we've taken a little bit further with the codoms. I know John Paul produced some super Arctic permafrost and some albino toasted caramel Arctics and all kinds of weird stuff this year. Some of the stuff we don't even really know exactly what it is just yet, um, because of how weird they look. And only until we breed them will we fully know exactly what we have. But yeah, it's a lot of this, a lot of the projects have like I would say in the last 5 years have really started to gain steam. And obviously, when we first started the hognose stuff, I mean, you'd go in these groups and there was only like 1,500, 2,000 people at the most in like hognose snakes, one exclamation point on Facebook. And now you fast forward years later, there's 20 something, 30,000 people in these groups now. So I think that also um, helped the hobby gain steam as that people started seeing the morphs and the genetic combinations that we're unlocking, and I think that helped the following tremendously, and everybody kind of making their switch from ball pythons and corn snakes to the hognose realm as well too. So
Yeah. And then, so, I want to touch on the subject when we're there. It's like talking about how much it's grown in the last couple years, right? Let's say from 2020 to now.
oh wow,
It,
yeah,
it's how much it exploded, right? What do you think the next, let's say, 5 years, right? Everything happens, major things happen in 5 year spans minimum, right?
correct.
What are your sights on of the at least the hognose world in the next five
The
years?
hognose world, I mean, right now we're kind of in a weird spot, and it doesn't have anything to do necessarily with the hobby. Um, it's the economy. Um, you know, as soon as we get a new administration into the White House and we get a nice change of hands, um, and the economy corrects itself, you will see the hobby correct itself. I'm trying to think. Yeah, as soon as I would definitely say probably within a year to a year and a half from now, you'll see it ramp back up. But right now we're just in a lull because of the world's economic standpoint. Um, because dude, if you think about it like this, 6 months ago, you couldn't produce enough of certain morphs uh to make them available. Sunburst, Mai Tais, oxides, sunsets. You couldn't produce enough for the demand.
Even
Like the
snows
demand
where, yeah.
even snows, and the demand exceeded the production of what was being put out.
Mhm.
You now see the demand drop and the production is up. Those people didn't go anywhere in the demand. They just don't have the money to spend right now because of the current world economic standpoint. So I think as soon as we get through this rough little patch and um, the economy corrects itself, you will see that influx of hognose that are available go back down, and you will see the demand rise way beyond it once again. Um, and I have no worries or anything like that that will correct itself because it was just like I said 6 months ago you couldn't produce enough. So it's like it didn't just fall off. It's no, people just don't have the money right now. Um, because for a lot of people, this is a hobby, and some people it's a hobby business. Um, so it's not like those people all of a sudden are like, oh no, fuck hognose. I don't want any hognose anymore. There's too many people breeding them. No, it's the demand fell because of the economy. So within a year, year and a half, we'll be right back where we just were 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So
And that's good to hear because a lot of people did buy a good amount of hognose in 2020, 2021, and are getting to that cusp of either starting to
breeding.
produce or we're going to be producing the next year or so, right? And I think some people are a little worried because of the trends they're seeing, what's going on the
Yeah,
sales part
well,
of it and stuff like that.
you have some people that are out there that are choosing to go ahead and drop prices because they're selfish. They have these ideas in their head that they have to make this much money or, I got to move these animals and they're willing to drop the prices on the market um, for their own selfish gain. It's kind of pathetic to watch, um, but I just know where these individuals lie at this point, that they're just showing their true colors. And I'm not worried about the market um, crashing or going down or never being able to sell hognose ever again. Like I said, because it will correct itself. It's inevitable. But it is funny to watch. Not really funny, but it's kind of disheartening to watch some of these name breeders do what they're doing to the market, and then it makes the people who spent good money weary. It makes them very weary, and it makes them like, oh shit, did I make a bad investment, or did I man, I I just spent $5,000 on this snake, and this guy's over here, Joe Blow's over here selling it for $1,500. Like, what the fuck just happened? I fully understand those people's pain. And like I said, it's very disheartening to watch, but I know those price points will rise back up again. I mean, in the beginning of 2020, right before COVID hit, you could buy snows for 300 or 400 bucks a piece. And then once COVID hit and everybody had money, from the all the assistance the government was giving everybody and
Yeah, the
everything,
stimulus, all that
people
stuff.
were
Yeah.
spending it. The snows jumped from $300-400 to $800-900 a piece. And I was like, holy crap. I never had thought in my life that snows were going to go up in price.
Mhm.
So this will happen again. Like I said, as soon as, the world gets back, you know, back trading
Yeah.
goods and services, and we lower the fuel costs and we get rid of, the extra
It-
tax and what do you call that? Inflation that's been imposed upon us all.
And like
So
you said, it's not just the reptile industry in the community; it's everywhere. My wife dragged
correct.
me out on Black Friday to go do some quick Christmas shopping, and the
Hmm.
stores were surprisingly empty. If for a Black Friday,
Correct.
we got in and out and did our shopping within like maybe 30, 40 minutes into I think
Wow.
three different
And you live
stores.
in Miami, so
And
that's
I live in
saying a
Miami,
lot.
yeah, yeah. So when we got back in the car, I mentioned that to my wife. I was very surprised on the quantity of people that were in the stores.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So
if
that
you haven't paid
that's
attention, you're having the corporate companies are doing um longer windows of discounts, and they're doing greater discounts, which in my opinion, that's not a bad deal. And even in the hognose world, if some of these other breeders chose to market themselves differently instead of dropping the prices publicly, run a sale, do 20, 30, 40% off of retail, not just straight cutting it down. I
Mhm.
think you would have less people feeling weary or feeling like, oh crap, I just paid all this money. I'm not going to be able to make my money back, or I'm not going to be able, whatever their thoughts are, and they just spent a good amount of money on some morphs or whatever. I just feel like there's better ways to go about, moving your animals other than just cutting everybody else's heads off and being like, well, shit, dude, not my problem. And it's like, well, come on, man, we're all here together. We all can work together. We can all uh, kind of do things a little differently, but you can't really control people and you can't tell people what to do.
Yeah, no, I
So,
agree.
but I
Yeah,
know
and
I know for a fact that it's going to change.
yeah, no, and that's from somebody that's been in it for so many years. It's good to hear, and I think people are gives us a little bit of assurance when they hear it from people that you're not just producing, you're also invested into the hog
Oh
nose
yeah,
world
I just
too,
bought more snakes this year. I just
yeah,
I just I just spent like
yeah,
15 grand like a
yeah,
couple months ago buying Swiss chocolate stuff. I'm always reinvesting and getting stuff that I don't have, and I'm always buying more cages, more racks, expanding my operation. Yeah, dude, I have no problem investing into this 'cause I believe in it. I believe in it. I mean, I'm not trying to take like credit, but we helped build the this market that we're all in. So I 100% believe in it. I'll continue to dump money into it and continue to make things better and improve things, whether if I'm buying air purifiers for my snake room or humidifiers to add humidity to keep my humidity levels, like any type of you know investment, whether buying more genetics or buying equipment to make my stuff better. I'm always investing in trying to improve. So yeah, 100%, dude.
yeah, man. And talking about that, when somebody buys a hog nose from you,
Hmm.
and do you initially speak to them about breeding, or they ask you, or do you have just the pet? People just looking for pets as well.
um I would say majority of people that buy from us are looking to breed or looking to create something.
Mhm,
I do get pet people, but they're easily identified. Um, Not that they're bad or anything like that, but you can just tell, like, they'll send you pictures of their setup and they'll have it in a 20 gallon or whatever. Not that people keep them in 20 gallons and don't breed, because people still do that as well. But like you can tell, and most of the time a lot of the people that buy from you are very upfront, and they're like, hey, I'm looking for this animal. Once I get this animal to this size, let me know if you have anything, or or what would you do if you were buying this animal? What would you pair it to? Or so you kind of know like who's buying from you and what they're buying, what their purpose is. And when people buy from me, whether it's a pet person or another hobbyist, I try to give them as much information as I can give them. Um, for whatever their goal is, whether it's just keeping the snake in optimum condition, I'll give you the information. You want to breed and make new genetic combinations, I'll give you the information. You want to breed and make a business, I'll give you the information. You want to learn to market and put yourself out there, I'll give you the information. It doesn't matter what kind of customer I get, I'm always willing to give them whatever information they need to make them successful, because if they're successful, then I'm successful. And that's one of John Paul and I's like biggest business mottos is, if you're successful, we're successful. So we try to keep people successful in whatever their goal is.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I agree
Hmm.
that, man. Like I have animals from you, I have animals from John and stuff like that. And even before our friendship really, started and stuff like that, you guys treated me, you know, just as well as today, Um,
Hmm.
I asked questions, you answered my questions, you gave me a couple different options and stuff like that. So I can't say anything more than that. And I enjoyed doing, especially then being able to purchase an animal from you guys. It was
Uh-huh.
very easy, and
Uh-huh.
I didn't feel like I was getting wrong information or any of that stuff. And I think
Yeah,
that's
no.
when you do that, people will keep coming back to purchase from
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. They definitely keep coming back because you're guiding them in the right direction, and then obviously their success in front of their face, they're like, "Holy crap, this person's giving me good information, and I might as well stick with it." So, um, like I said, that's one of our main mottos, is just to make everybody else around us successful so that we are successful, because you're gonna go and tell Jimmy and Johnny about us, and they're going to come buy from us, and you're going to come back and buy from us because you were already pleased with the first purchase, or you were pleased with the information that you were given, and you feel comfortable, you feel, confident
Yeah, for sure.
in your moves. So, yeah, that's where we try to keep everybody, and try to help everyone the best we can. So,
If you had a customer today, buy an animal from you and ask you, what are 5 tips you can give them to be successful, keeping and breeding hog nose, what would you give them? Or if there's more than 5, go ahead and give them out.
5 tips on
Yeah.
keeping and breeding hog noses.
Mhm.
Mm, I would say tip number one would be, make sure you have males. Um, Tip number two would be to make sure that your hot spots are not too hot during breeding season so that you have good fertility. Uh, Tip number three would be keeping your husbandry tip-top shape, spot cleaning at least once a week, um, full bedding changes once a month at the very least, um, and then I would say four would be paying attention to the breeding behaviors, and then five, I would definitely um, stay in contact with other hognose breeders that are close proximity to you to mirror their success. And what I mean by that is, what works for me here in Florida doesn't work for John Paul in Ohio. I keep my snakes totally different than he keeps his snakes. He keeps his snakes at ambient temperature. I went to his house one time, and AJ was feeding, and I look at the he's got gauges on the racks and walls for the temperatures, and it was 68 degrees in his snake room. And I said, "Hey, AJ, I don't think it's a good idea you're feeding right now." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And I go, "It's 68 degrees in here, dude." And he goes, "It's perfect." And I go, "Dude, these things are gonna throw up their food." And he's like, "I don't even know what you're talking about." And I go, "Well, at my house, if I fed hognose snakes and it was 68 degrees in my room, they would all regurgitate their food." So my point of telling you that is, he keeps his animals different than I do at my house. My ambient temperature is 80 degrees. My hot spots are at 84, 85. Um, and he keeps an ambient temperature, and his temperature fluctuates depending on the time of year. So, like, it might be 80 degrees in his room, it might be 68 degrees. It's totally different. That's why I say, if you can get some hognose friends or some other breeders that are on the same latitude as you will do better mirroring each other's success versus calling Johnny over in California, Northern California, and saying, "Hey, bro, I'm down here in South Florida, and dude, I just can't figure it out, man. My snakes aren't eating." And Johnny will tell you in California what he's doing and what temperature he's keeping them at, and you'll try it here in South Florida, and it won't work for you. Um, so knowing where you are on the latitude definitely helps with this species because you keep them everybody keeps them a little bit different, and there is no, it doesn't mean that person's wrong and I'm right, or John Paul's wrong and I'm right, or whatever, John Paul's right and I'm wrong. It literally comes down to your latitude and where you at and your barometric pressures and your humidity levels and your temperatures, because the snakes are in tune with all this stuff. So because I keep my temperatures a little bit warmer, doesn't mean that um, it's going to work for, somebody in North Carolina or, Wyoming or wherever, you know what I mean? So that would be my fifth tip, would be to get with some hognose breeders that are successful near you, and then try to mirror each other's success as best you can. And then you can always tweak your stuff and, okay, well, that didn't work too well for me. Maybe I'll raise the ambient, or I'll lower the ambient and raise my heat or lower my heat.
Mhm.
Um, that would probably be one of the best pieces of
And
information that I think I've gathered.
you know what's another thing?
Yeah.
Another thing also is like, you know, your wherever you're keeping it, if you're keeping it in your home or you're keeping it in a shed or whatever it is, right? Like the actual structure, it might, your temperatures might fluctuate a lot
Hmm.
more, humidity might be more or less. It's, what might work in your place might not even be 100% working in where I, live and stuff like that. And
Correct.
it's just like you said, watching the behavior, right?
Hmm.
Watching, being in tune with the animal as well, figuring
Correct.
out. It's hard to say, like I'm pretty sure you get the question. Oh, what do you keep? What's your hot spots? What's your temps? What's your humidity and stuff like that? And
Hmm.
you know, you can give it to them, right? And if it
Yeah.
doesn't work for them, it's not you didn't give them wrong information. It's just it maybe not work in their environment, right? In the area they're in.
Correct. Yeah, I don't know. I've been doing it for a while now, so I can pretty much, I know so many people breeding around the US that I can basically, let's say I have a customer calls me and they say, "Hey man, I did everything you told me to do and it's still not working." I'm like, "Okay, where is this individual located? Who do I know that is near this individual?" So, and then I'll call those other people that I know that live, and I say, "Hey, man, can you just give me a rundown on how you're keeping your animals and how they're performing and blah blah blah?" And they'll be like, "Oh, okay. Well, I got my AC set at 70 degrees in my house, my hotspot set at 89, 90 degrees." And I'm like, "Oh, damn, really?" And your animal's thriving, eating, pooping, everything's doing good. They're growing, shedding. Oh yeah, okay. When I call the customer back, say, "Hey, listen, check this out. You know, take the ambient temperature down to 70. Don't keep your room at 80 like I do. Raise your hotspot from 84, 85 to 89, 90, because this is what so and so is doing, and he lives near you, and he is successful in your area." And nine times out of 10, dude, that will be the fix. And like I said, now I've been doing this so long, I can pretty much, wherever somebody is, I'm like, "Okay, what's the temperature of your house? Okay, all right. Oh, okay. Let's set your heat at this," and can pretty much troubleshoot it now without really having to call people, because I've had to call so many people in the past and try to gain some understanding of that area. And a lot of it, dude, might have to do with altitude too, you know?
Mhm.
So like here we're at 3 feet above water, you know what I mean? So it's like um
Yeah,
it's different. It's
it is.
definitely different.
What's
versus
what do you think was the maybe the biggest difference of us keeping hognose here in South Florida than from the rest of the country?
our humidity levels.
Hmm.
Um, so here in South Florida, we have 100% saturation like year round.
Mhm.
Um, and if you're keeping your snakes in a house where you have central AC, then you can kind of go with what everybody else is doing and, keep the ambient temperature at 70 to 74, and then which is typical for an American household. 70, 74 is what that's pretty much average temperature what most people keep their home at. And then you can go with a higher hot spot because central AC cools more evenly. If you have a building like I have, where I have mini splits do not cool evenly. They actually overcool the spot until they shut off. So when I first built this building behind my home, I would shoot my temp gun around. I was like, I had some snakes that were eating really well and most were not. And I was like, I don't get it. I have the AC set at 77 and I got my hot spots at like 86, 87. I'm like, what's the deal? And come to find out was that that AC unit was dumping so much cold air into there and sucking out all the humidity. And I would shoot the temp gun around in my room. I'm getting spots like 61, 62, 63. And I'm like, holy crap, what the, so I guess knowing your environment, you will be able to better retrofit your setup and for the animal's best like peak performance. But the obstacle here in Florida is definitely the humidity,
Yeah.
definitely. And that will have a different that and the thunderstorms that we get repeatedly throughout the summer play a far different role here for us in Florida than for most people in the US. Because most people in the US do not have the humidity saturation that we have. They do not have the thunderstorms that roll in during the spring, summer, and early fall months because of the trade winds, because they don't have all that. So there's definitely some hurdles, stuff that you wouldn't normally think about. Like most people aren't thinking about that kind of stuff. They're like, oh, it's got to be my humidity. No. I mean, it took us years. I mean, I know I still bounce stuff off Esalen all the time, but it took us a long time to figure out a lot of this stuff. And I would say we don't even really have it all the way figured out, to be honest, because we're
Mhm.
always changing stuff. We're always tweaking stuff. Well, this worked really good at this time of the year, and that worked really great at that time of the year. And so it's like kind of always evolving, man, in a way. But just being present with the animals and watching the behaviors and being able to understand them after years of watching them is probably also another advantage for us as well, So,
Yeah. Yeah. You
mhm,
know, and I've mentioned this to you before. It's like I I had the extra time this year for my first breeding season, luckily, that I could sit here and watch and be able to fine tune certain things. And I don't think I would have had the success that I did this year without having all that extra time, being able to watch and make sure that everything was perfect as can be with the
mhm,
breedings and temps and all that stuff.
mhm.
Like you said, if I had to pair and go off to work 6, 8, 8 hours plus travel time, I don't, I would have maybe got a quarter of what the animals I got this year and stuff.
Yeah,
And being
paying
able to take,
attention definitely correlates into the success for sure. You know, it's it's a lot of paying attention and understanding what to do, when to do, and and then fine tuning that. So, and then coming up with a schedule and coming up with a process. And if you don't have a process or a plan, you're kind of gonna get left. You know what I mean? Not necessarily, but you have to have a process and a plan.
yeah,
And you'll get that Sometimes if you got a good mentor, you'll get it right away. If you don't, sometimes it takes a few years to get it dialed in. You know, not everything's super easy. I mean, I only have a few species that are super easy, like tricolors. Those are probably some of the easiest snakes I think I've ever bred. I mean, these things got to adult size in a year and a half, and I've got one male and four females. He breeds all four females within one day. I literally
Wow.
drop him in there. He locks with the female in 30, I swear to you, it's within 30 to 60 seconds. Literally. And then he breeds her for an hour or two. I literally, as soon as they're unlocked, I pull them out, drop them into the next bin. Locks right up with the female. I wait, go back in there, see if he's unlocked, drop him into the next bin. And look, literally, we'll breed all four females in one day. And I've gotten over 700 babies from these four females in just over 2 years. And a lot of people say that I'm crazy or whatever, that tricolors only give you 3 to 4 clutches a year. Bullshit. If you have them dialed in, these things shit out eggs year round. Every 4 to 6 weeks, clutch of eggs. 4 to 6 weeks, clutch of eggs. And I wish the Westerns were that easy. I really do, but they are not.
But you know what? Even compare like the westerns compared to like other species, like let's say ball python and stuff that we still
Mhm.
get. I mean, it's harder. I think it's a little more work to get there, but once you get there, the eggs that we get, the production and stuff like that, it's a lot for a small snake. You know,
Yeah, it is. And that's
but
what you have to bump the feeding up.
mhm,
Make sure they're very well fed while you're breeding. Especially with the Westerns, because they'll tend to want to eat their mate or anything moving, basically. They'll try to consume um, in the cage, and then also egg production just depletes them. So you want to supplement your mice with calcium and vitamins and bump up your feeding a little bit more often than you're doing in your off season. And same thing with the tricolors. I literally had to feed these tricolors every 2 to 3 days with that kind of egg production. They'll literally eat 2 to 3 adult mice every 2 to 3 days. Just smash food. But that's the only way to keep the weight on them with the way that the way that they produce here at my house.
mhm,
It's literally the only way. Everybody's like, "Oh, you have to cool them to shut them off." That does not work. Does not work. Those animals are not used to being cooled to be shut off. What I've found that shuts them off, heat. Heat shuts them off.
yeah, that's
Hmm.
interesting. The opposite, huh?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, because they start breeding in South America. I believe they start breeding in the cooler times of the year, and then the summer season is their off season. I think it's backwards for them. I'm not entirely sure. I wish there was some field research papers to confer some of this information with, because I basically have nobody um, to confer with on the tricolors. And when John Paul tries to tell people about my success with them, they're like, those things don't breed like that. There's no way you got more than 4 clutches in a year. And it's like, oh, dude, this is actually what they're doing. And I only have four. I have four females and one male. And dude, I've never seen an animal do like these things do. Never. And I have nobody to confer with. I have zero people to call. The people that I've talked to about breeding them are like, oh, yeah, I basically bred mine till it died. Or, yeah, I only get 3 to 4 clutches and then I cool them and shut them off. And I'm like, oh, well, they'll still shit out eggs in the brumation chamber because I tried that. Um, and they don't stop. So I literally had to try to figure out how to shut them off myself and how
Mhm.
to navigate. with this species of hognose, and yeah, I wish westerns were just as prolific.
Yeah, that would be insane to think about that many eggs from a hog nose.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Listen, you know, and people probably want to know and stuff. That's like, if you had to attribute your success to the breeding, one thing you do with your breeding, your pairings of that, what would it be?
What do you mean? Say that
Like,
again.
if there was one thing that you do with your pairings and breeding that you think, give you success that you have, what would it be?
Like I stated before, multiple males and moving them around obsessively. I'm not gonna leave my males in there for a week with the females. I literally move my males around every 2 days, or sometimes a little bit more frequently than that if I don't see any action. And paying attention during breeding season. That's what I attribute to my success. Multiple males and circulating the males, and yeah, yeah, I would say that's probably the
Okay.
bulk of
Yeah,
my success with the westerns for sure.
yeah. And then, with the success you have had, in the last couple years and stuff like that, what is your plan for next year? Do you have something in mind that you're really looking to produce next year, or,
Oh
you
yeah,
said you added Swiss chocolate this year too, as well, right?
yep, yep. We're definitely going to be doing some project stuff with the Swiss. Definitely going to be doing some PPA to the Swiss as well. Going to be going that direction. Um, I like taking the road less traveled by.
Mhm.
I've not seen anybody take that route. I know people are still weary of the PPA gene, um, and that's fine. We've worked with it. Man, I've been working with the PPA for like 9 years now and have made several morphs with the PPA stuff. And I have not seen the issues were that people used to have with the PPA, the stargazing, the neurological issues, or anything. I think the more we work these genes into new bloodlines and other animals, I think you'll see less and less of these neurological issues and or like retarded animals, like things with kinks or messed up, subpar animals that they were seeing, 10, 12 years ago when
Yeah.
in the beginnings of these first few years of these morphs and stuff. Like I think the first PPA was hatched in 2004 or 5 or something like that by Brian Barchett. So it's come a long way. Um, Also, some other projects that I'm looking forward to. We're doing Lemon Ghost everything, like Lemon Ghost Mai Tais, Lemon Ghost Sunbursts, Lemon Ghost Storm Clouds, Lemon Ghost everything. Um, I absolutely love the Lemon Ghost gene. Thanks to Jeff Jr. Appreciate you for that. About it. But we do appreciate it, and it's an awesome gene, and I believe um, there's far more potential with it than I think most people know. I still feel as though there's quite a few things that are left to be unlocked in there.
What's your favorite combo you've produced with Lemon Go so far?
Uh, well, I just started this journey probably 5 years ago, man, and I
Okay.
think this year I made lemon ghost sables and sable condas that are het for Mai Tai. Um, that's probably well. I also made things that I have no clue what they are.
You went out for a few seconds. Last thing we got was, you also made something.
Oh, I made lemon ghost sables and sable condas, het mai
Okay.
tai.
Hmm.
I would say probably those, and then that weird thing that I hatched out of the lemon ghost het sable to lemon ghost
Oh
het
man.
sable. I call it, well, somebody named it on my IG Dijon. He's and what I think it is a lemon ghost cinnamon is what I think it is. But I won't know until I just got it to breeding size. And I'm cooling him right now, and I'm gonna breed him to some normal females this year and see if anything comes through, like the cinnamon or that pattern that it has, or anything that's replicable with that. And I also produced this. I believe Jermaine has posted it
Is it
on.
is it this on your
Yeah, that's
Instagram?
Dijon. That's my
Okay. I
homie
can see why.
Dijon.
I
Shout
can see
out to
why.
Dijon.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
That
dude,
thing
that
is
thing's really neat. I
sick.
when I first hatched, it was black. I don't know if you can find the picture.
Oh, okay. I was looking at your Instagram earlier, and I was like, man, I
It's in
remember
my
this thing.
hand. Yes, that's it. That's
Yeah,
Dijon as a baby.
that's
Yeah.
insane on the changes.
Isn't it dope? I originally thought that that was a sable because of how weird it looked. I was like, is this what a lemon ghost sable looks like? And at that point in time, Junior wasn't showing anybody anything,
Mhm.
and I had no references, and I was like, I had no idea what that was. Um,
Oh, hold on, let me
that
see.
right there. What? Go back to that one. Nope, that
That one.
one. Then I hatched out this. I made some. Um, About 6 years ago, I bred lemon ghost to Arctics because I really wanted to see a super Arctic lemon ghost. Um, and I did my first breeding with the pairs. I want to say it was like a year ago or 2 years ago, and I created that thing. And what that is a lemon ghost Woodruff hypoconda. And Woodruff hypo just pops out at random. I've produced a couple in the past, but I accidentally snapped their necks in the drawer. I pulled their
Oh
heads through the
man.
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I never got to do anything with them. But this one actually that's in my hand, she's like 70 grams now, and she's growing really well. And I'm hoping to be able to replicate those and see what further we can do with that as well, because it's definitely the thing looks weird. That's what I
That
mean about the lemon
background
ghost
is
stuff.
is super clean. Is bright.
Yeah,
Like
I wish I had
it,
updated pictures for you on my IG so you could see what it looks like. Now I'll take some tomorrow and post them.
cool.
Um, but yeah, Lemon Ghost is something heavy that we're working with, and
Yeah.
trying to intertwine recessives and other incomplete dominants and stuff like that in the mix, and see if we can get anything else to pop, or even just to replicate more to get them in other people's hands. But yeah,
I
Dijon
still
is
can't
something
believe.
special.
Yeah, I still
Yes.
can't believe that thing is.
Yeah.
The changes. Wow, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And that's one thing interesting that I had this year when I started hatching
Mhm.
my stuff was like after a shed or two, the changes that it happens, right?
Mhm.
Isn't it insane? And like sometimes it
Oh,
makes me think
dude.
like maybe I'm not gonna sell nothing till I have two sheds into a animal, you
Well, with the
know?
lemon ghost stuff, you have to hold on to it, because some of the ugliest looking ones that don't even look like they're lemon ghosts will be the best looking animals. And I've accidentally sold some freaking bangers, man, on complete accident, just not, or maybe ignorance, I'll say. I just didn't know, you know? And but any of the lemon ghost projects, I like to try to keep them back for at least 3 to 4 sheds, sometimes more, just to see, because Dijon, it took him, I don't even know how many sheds, and it just keeps getting even crazier. Every time that thing sheds, it's just more and more and more orange and yellow, and the patterns disappearing, dude, just so much going on. So I'm pretty excited for the future with a lot of the lemon ghost combos and lemon ghost stuff. Uh, that is the direction that I'm moving in. Um, I know John Paul's on board too. We also let AJ choose some breedings a couple of years ago, and he worked the lemon ghost into some ghost stuff. So he's got some lemon ghost double het for
Ghost.
ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the ghost.
Yeah.
um, so that's kind of cool. And like I said, doing another project that I'm really excited about this next year is I plan to breed the sunset into the lemon ghost sable stuff and make lemon ghost sables het for pink pastel. So that's another banger project that I know is going to be that, and the super arctic lemon ghost shit are going to be on fleek, dude. Like they're going to be something
That,
freaking to be reckoned with, man. I'm telling you.
that's gonna be interesting to see those little heads pop out of those eggs, man. Because there's
Hmm.
gonna be such variety, I think, in that the Super Arctic's lemon ghost gonna be such
Uh-huh.
variety in it.
Yeah, Jeff has them. He just don't show them to you people. From what I'm
You
told,
know,
they look very badass.
no, I can
From what
imagine,
I'm
man.
told.
Yeah. And you know, here's the picture that we have on the thumbnail, right? And I think this was one of the coolest things because
Oh yeah,
it
that's a dope
shows,
picture.
you know, all three combo, you know, all the combos that can come out of the permafrost pairings, you know. Um, that's another thing too, man. We need to see adult permafrost
Oh, I got
um,
some.
on your IG because
I
I think a
know,
lot of people
I
are
know.
interested too on to
All
see
right,
what
I'll
they're looking
start
like.
posting more. I've kind of fallen kind of fallen away from the social media. Not on purpose, just time, and trying to upkeep everything and build more and do more and I'm gonna have to. I think that'll be my thing for this next year. That'll be my New Year, excuse me, my New Year's resolution for 2024 will be to post more because I have some banger stuff. I just haven't had the time to share it. And yeah, so you'd want to see some adult toasted caramels, some adult oxides, some adult permafrost, and yeah, I can do that here in the next few days and
Yeah,
post some
I
of that
think people
stuff.
definitely be interested in seeing that. Um,
Yeah.
you know, with you, so we got the lemon ghost stuff going on,
Hmm.
and then the Swiss chocolate PPA stuff. I think that's going to be off the chain
Oh
too,
yeah.
man. It's going to be
Well,
really
yeah, I
sick.
mean, I don't think it's gonna look like the sunset. That the way the saturation comes in with those Swiss chocolates is different.
Hmm.
Um, it's similar to Sable, and I'd say some of the combos are similar, yes,
Hmm.
but some of them are not. Like, in my opinion, the Swiss chocolate toffee super conda looks way more badass than a Mai Tai super conda. But that's just my opinion. The saturation that comes
Yeah,
in the background is just way more. So I do believe some of these other combos will look significantly different, for sure.
and I agree
So,
on that with you. With the Mai Tais, I like the Conda better than the Super Conda.
oh, I agree.
Because of the different shades that the pattern throw out, and then the
Hmm.
same thing. I think the saturation in the Swiss chocolate toffee belly it throws
Hmm.
that nice color out.
Uh-huh.
That's interesting. Yeah, yeah, man. That was gonna be. I can't wait to see that when
I
it
want to see
takes
lemon
place.
ghost Swiss chocolates as well. I think those will be something to balk at as well.
Yeah.
Um, there's still so many combos out there, even without the new genes, that nobody's even really doing.
Hmm.
Which is mind blowing. Like Eslin this year just produced the first frosted PPAs
Hmm.
and frosted caramel too. I think he produced as, or I mean, a PPA caramel as well. I mean, dude, these things look fucking gnarly, bro. I mean, and to think that these genes have all been around for quite some time, and they're just now being made. So that's what I'm saying. There's still And he also made those PPA Azanthic condas. Gangster, dude. I mean, there's still so much potential, even with the genes that we had, originally, that people just aren't even thinking about. I mean, that was the whole reason for Fathom Hogs is, you ain't even thinking about it. You can't even fathom it.
Yeah.
So, that, like I said, there's just so much potential out there, and people just need to think outside the box instead of, it's okay to follow and it's okay to
Mhm.
replicate, but he who takes the risk gains the reward. You get there first, you can build your name off that, and you can build your collection off that, and then nobody's in your corner, nobody's in your market per se. It's you kind of build your own niche, with some of
Yeah, I
these
agree.
genetic
I
combinations.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So,
think jumping on the let's say per se like the bandwagon of a certain combo or something like that just because it's hot right now.
hmm
It's not if you like it, of course, go ahead and produce it, right? If it's because you really enjoy seeing that, go ahead and produce it. But
yeah,
it's just because that's what's hot right now, you're gonna always be chasing that train, right? Um,
yeah,
and I think that could be a downfall of breeding projects and stuff like that.
yeah, it could definitely can discourage some people for sure. I could see that happening, especially if they didn't produce like they wanted to produce, or they didn't get to their mark like they wanted to, and then they see their friend get the mark, and I could definitely see how that could be a little bit frustrating. Um, that's why it's always best to, in my mind, just to kind of stay different, kind of do, like Shel Silverstein says, take the road less traveled by. So, I mean, that's always been my motto, and I would just keep continuing to try to make cool new shit, dude, and trying to think about what else we have coming. I know John Paul has a couple of new genes over there. We don't know how they work just yet, and we don't know entirely a lot about them. They just happen to pop up at random in some of our breedings. So we're hoping to be able to bring some new stuff to the market that nobody has yet, here in the next few years. So, but it will take some breedings, and that does take time. So I'm
Mhm.
kind of excited about a lot of new stuff that's going to
Especially
be.
doing responsibly and not rushing towards it where we're talking about the PPA stuff, right? Rushing
hmm
into it and then having these long-term effects on a gene where you have
Yeah,
to cross and stuff like that. So it does take a lot longer when you're taking
it
your time.
does take a lot longer when you're trying to keep bloodlines separated, or you're trying to not mix, the same bloodline back to itself. And
Mm,
um, we've also are trying to fortify a lot of our stuff. I know we're going to be getting some more wild caught blood here in the future, so that we can fortify these genetic combinations once we reach the goal, and then outcross to maintain uh, strength in our stuff, and also for our customers as well, so that they can, you know, confidently buy animals from us and know that, okay, if I breed this to this, I'm not going to be getting a disappointment clutch of a bunch of kinked animals, or stuff spiraling out of the egg and stuff. So always definitely trying to think the customer is definitely number one, and also what they're going to be producing with our stuff too. So, and try to keep that in mind as well when moving projects forward, and trying to bring some of this newer stuff to fruition, is, diversify your bloodlines and have good, clean blood mixed in. Once you reach your goal or whatever, you get your triple visual, or your quad, or your quint visual, then
yeah,
outcross it.
yeah, yeah. And I think when you're working that, there's nothing wrong with producing pos het stuff because sometimes you have to be outcross or work on certain genes, right?
Right. Yeah, Posset animals are fine. I like Posset animals. I'm a Posset gambler.
Yeah, I mean, I have, like we were talking about earlier, the permafrost project. That's one project that I am chasing, right? Like, and I have two females that are 66% headers for
Hmm.
permafrost, and I was happy to prove out one to be sable. I was like, man, I got a sable out of this.
It is
you
cool,
know?
man, when you hit some of those genes, especially when you hold back some of the stuff, like when you're making new projects
Yeah,
and you have these possets from these breedings, and you take your visual and breed them back to these, and you're like, oh, that one proved, hell yeah. It's pretty fun. It's almost like
yeah,
gambling, like you got a scratch off ticket or something.
yeah. It's crazy is that I'm holding back a female that from that pairing that's a sable, and her sable is probably one of the prettiest sables I have out of what I've hatched this year.
Hmm.
I was happy that I was looking at it earlier today, and I was happy. I was like, man, thank God I got this girl. Um,
Oh,
we're getting to close to 2 hours already. So I'm gonna
oh,
ask you
well, then
a
stop
couple
talking
little
so much.
questions before we end the night and get
Yeah,
you to
no
bed and
problem.
stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm getting
Two
there.
things. um, what's your favorite gene and your least favorite gene in the hog nose? Single gene.
Recessive.
Any recessive or incomplete.
Um, my favorite gene in the hobby. Uh, this is probably gonna sound a little cliche because of my poster behind me, but I did Sable, man. It has been the pinnacle for a lot of John Paul and I's stuff, and yeah, we just love the Sable gene and how it varies and the genetic combos it throws. And when Daniel first came out with that gene, I just remember all the haters telling him, "Oh, that's some cool normal. Those are normals." And then in like 2012, he produced the first Sunburst, or 2013,
Mm.
and everybody was just like, "Oh, damn, what is that?" So I would say Sable is still my favorite gene, just because it's the precursor to all of the, storm clouds, permafrost, oxides, sunsets, sunbursts. Um, you got your acid rains. You got these other new combos that guy just hatched in Europe. He's got ghost sables. I think he calls them ghost storms. Uh, Kyle Greenloff, really good guy. Um, he produced a sable xanthic caramel, whatever you call it, a sable frostbite. I don't know if that's what it's called. I think that's what it's called.
Mm.
Um, like, dude, all these animals, when you hold them in your hand, you're like just in awe with the amount of color, the saturation, and like the iridescence and the translucent scales. And you're just like, dude, this looks fake. You know what I mean? This doesn't even look
Mhm.
real. And then, so yeah, I would say Sable is definitely my favorite. My least favorite gene, uh, pistachio.
Pistachio.
Listen, when that shit first came out and that Philippe guy or whatever made this thing called an infinity, and it was supposedly an xanthic pistachio. Dude, this thing looked like a green snow. I have a picture of it somewhere on my phone. I have to pull it up. Um, but it looked like a snow with neon green pattern on it. And I was like, dude, that is fucking dope. And the guy never produced another one like it. And then I remember Daniel and I had partnered up to make the sunset het animals originally. I had sent him a PPA Conda het albino male to breed to two of his darkest sable females in like 2015 or 2015. I sent him that. And we made the hets to start that project. And he, at that same year, he had purchased a pistachio male and bred it to a sable female. And he got like some crazy amount of babies and he kept them all. It was like 9.10 or something like that. And he bred them all to each other. And he got over 100 and something eggs. It was something crazy. And he didn't get one pistachio or a double visual pistachio sable, not nothing. Because at that time, we had all understood, as it was told to us, that pistachio was recessive. And now, from what people are working with, it looks like it's almost like a dominant trait, and it almost looks like it works hand in hand with the true hypo, which also was sold to us as a recessive trait by Tom Augusta or whatever his name is that discovered it. And it's not. And it's kind of sucks, but yeah, I would say that was probably my least favorite gene would be pistachio, just because it was sold to the people in the wrong manner, and nothing was ever, years of time was wasted trying to make double visuals and other cool animals, and the gene wasn't working like it was being told to us. So
Yeah.
that, I mean,
That's.
don't
I
get
mean,
me
that's.
wrong,
Yeah.
pistachios are neat looking in person, but it's something you can't capture on like in pictures.
Yeah.
Um, but as
And
far
the
as
dominant, the dominant genes, it's a gamble too, right? Working with dominant genes, there's no guarantee on what you're gonna get out of it.
yeah, it could be a pretty big gamble, especially if it's not sold to you in the right manner, if the person hadn't done the right amount of work with it and they didn't fully understand how it works because they were so excited to bring it to the market to make their money on it. And it kind of, you know, hurts the rest of us. It doesn't really hurt the people that do that. It hurts the people that invest in it and waste their time. So I haven't seen anything, in my opinion, that would make me want to say, "Oh yeah, bro, I'm gonna dedicate the next 5 years to the pistachio gene."
Mhm.
And that's just kind of where I'm at. That would probably be one
I
of
mean,
my
that's
least
that's a, I think
favorites.
that's a good reason, you know.
Yeah, I just watch a lot of my friends waste their time, and it's kind of put a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah, especially like you said, putting 5 years into projects, and then there's nothing really to, that's worthwhile at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Um, so the next one would be if you were starting today as a new breeder, you had to do one pairing, single genes or combos. What do you think you would start off your
I
collection
already
with?
told you it. I would do PPA and Swiss chocolate. If I were to start today, I would buy a PPA Arctic Conda male, since Swiss chocolate Arctic Condas are, you seen the one Galewood just posted,
Hmm.
17 bands.
Hmm.
I think the cheaper route would be to get you the female for 5 and then go buy a PPA Arctic Conda male for whatever you can get those for, a few grand or whatever. And that would be, in my opinion, a great way to make a name for yourself. Not that that's important, but if you're going to want to do a business, it kind of is. And then you would also get to see new gene combinations and have something totally different from everybody else. That's what I would do. If I was just now getting in, that's
Hmm.
100% what I would do.
That's
And
a
then
hell of
go
a
from
pair
there.
there. Yeah,
Yeah, if it was
hell of a
just one
pair.
pair, I mean, if that's
Yeah.
all I had and that's what I would do. I don't care
Uh,
that I haven't seen it. I could see it in my mind's eye and know that That's a good bet.
I mean, back to your name, right? You can fathom it. Freaking,
Yeah,
it's and that's having the dream. It's half of the battle too. Like trying to figure out, like you
yeah.
said, if you guys if you were scared, just like, oh man, this is not gonna look good. If it's you wouldn't have some of the stuff that you guys produced, right?
Dude, I got mocked and made fun of at Daytona, and oh man, I don't know if it was 2014. I was talking about some of these future pairings and things that nobody was doing, and these other breeders. They're like, "Oh, dude, what do you think it's gonna do? Like, white out the whole snake or something?" And I'm like, "No, not at all. Um, if you understand how this gene works and you understand how this gene works, it's probably gonna look something like this." And they're like, "Oh, dude, that's crazy!" Like they were just mocking me, and yeah, luckily they're not in the hobby anymore. But yeah, I've always kind of just had a different idea and direction of the way some of this stuff should go because most people were just at that point in time thinking about snows and snow conus, which theirs are gorgeous too. There's nothing wrong with them, but like I said, if you want to do a business and you want to excel yourself, or if you want to do something new and exciting and not know what the outcome is, then yeah, I would just be bold, man. Be different and shoot in directions that nobody else is really even fathoming at this point in time.
Yeah. And one other question was,
Yeah.
which we were going to get into, but we're running out of time, and we'll probably sit here another hour or
Who
two.
says we're on a
Um,
time limit? Is this podcast on a time limit or
I thought you were on the time limit, man.
bro,
I
I'm
thought
awake now, dude.
you're awake now. um,
Yeah, dude, I had to stay awake all day. That means no pot smoking all day. And I was like, man, these people are gonna kill me, bro. But here I am, wide awake, and I'm not gonna be
there
able
we
to
go.
sleep tonight in my van, divorced. I'm just teasing. So what's the next question there?
um,
What's the one you wanted to get into? We can get into it real
oh,
quick and then
no, other species you've been working with, and that we should look out for in the
oh
next
yeah.
year or two.
Well, we've got the Ackies dialed in, the red Ackies. I actually hatched a very weird one this year. It could be nothing, but I'm waiting for it to grow up, and it looks fairly similar to the bearded dragon morph called the leatherback. Like I said, I just started breeding the Ackies last year was my first breedings, and I was successful on a couple of small clutches, and this year I've gotten over like 80 of them this year, and I produced this one animal that looks like a leatherback Ackie, not a bearded dragon, but it looks similar. The scales look similar, the short head, it just looks fairly similar to that. So if that's something, then maybe those. I'll have those. But I'm working with the Ackies, building that outdoor enclosure, which I shared on the IG on one of my stories. I got about two and a half more weeks of work till that's to fruition, and then I can put them outside in this badass setup. We also have blue tree monitors, green tree monitors, and we're working on getting the yellows. We also have the Corydensis, which are the Biak tree monitors, which are different locale of tree monitors. They're badass. So I would say in the next year to 2 years, you're going to see us produce. We're going to focus pretty heavy on the tree monitor stuff, especially since the blues have gone to CITES. And I don't think we're going to be able to, I don't know if you're going to be able to import here much longer. Also, I know John Paul and I are going to be taking some dives on some albino southern painted turtles. He's already purchased some hets. We're in the middle of raising those up. I've got radiated tortoises, Aldabra tortoises, which that's going to be a long time. So just stay tuned, another 30 years or so. Um,
That's a
and
lifelong journey. Yeah, man.
yeah, Australian water dragons. We should be producing with those hopefully in the next year, 2 years. And I also got panther chameleons that are just keep shitting out eggs that I keep killing because I'm ignorant and I haven't
You
learned
haven't
enough
figured
yet.
it out, man.
Well, I have one clutch that's still going strong, man. At
Okay.
5 months, dude, they're about to bust open. So as soon as I hatch some of these cool little creatures, dude, then I'll add that to the roster, but and I'll have it dialed in. But it's been a quite a learning curve on those for sure. Not really the keeping or the breeding, but just hatching the eggs. I know that sounds
And it's such a
dumb.
long incubation period too,
Yeah, five to
right?
six
Like,
months or something like that,
yeah,
dude.
it's
It's crazy.
more time for shit to go wrong, right? Like, shit. That's
Yeah,
patience
so
too.
yeah, and I know once we plan to build another facility up at John Paul's house, and we plan to do a lot more aquatic turtle species as well. So we have a lot of things in the works. Still trying to buy. Also got green keeled scale lizards as well, which those things keep crapping out eggs on me too, and I'm struggling to hatch them. So if anybody has any good information on just hatching the eggs, please message me. I've killed like 20 eggs so far. But always learning, man. It's, when you have that many different things going on, it gets tough to like, okay, this one only needs this much water. This one needs to be on sand and not vermiculite, or this one needs to be on perlite with this much water. I mean, it gets a little, you know, I'm not perfect at everything, and I would say I always lose before I win. So
So
it's
let me ask you, now that
yeah.
you're adding all these other things, all the
Uh-huh.
other species, a lot of lizard species, right?
Yeah.
Is it going to be Fathom Hogs or is it going to be Fathom Reptiles? Have you thought about that yet?
Yeah, we've already thought about that.
Okay.
It is gonna be
Is
changed to
it
Fathom Reptiles in the
okay?
future, yeah, for sure. Because and I know John Paul's also got Chihuahua geckos. He's also got gargoyle geckos, which he's breeding, he's hatching, and he's building his army. And John Paul's also got what else did he get? I don't know. We keep adding stuff, man. He's got the isopods, like I told you today. His little
Mhm.
girls breed isopods and corn snakes and all that kind of stuff. So like we have an army. Oh, and we're doing milk snakes. I forgot about those. And John Paul's got the Asian rat snakes too.
Yeah,
Dude,
man.
we're obsessed, man. So that's the beauty of this whole thing is that, you know, hognose, awesome, awesome species, awesome stuff. But like as a hobbyist in the reptile community, we're just obsessed with it all. So, and we just plan to just grow, man, and
Yeah.
that's pretty much where we're gonna be
Hmm.
at.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking earlier. I just added isopods to my stuff, and that was my way of holding myself back from adding another reptile species or like another. It's like let me
That was
add
your
these things.
wife's way of holding you back and telling you no, Alvaro, not right now, Alvaro.
I couldn't bring another reptile into this house right now. So
The
isopods
kids
was
need
my
braces, Alvaro.
that's already taken care of. The
I'm
braces.
just teasing.
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, some things like I was there's a whole like there's a list of things I want to add, but thinking about space and time and all
Yeah,
that stuff, it's a limit.
I
Um,
know. I kind of planned my life around this whole thing because when we
mhm,
were looking for this house before we bought it 5 years ago, I already knew what time it was, what I wanted. I wanted more. And I
mhm,
was like, I have to at least have some acreage if I want to do this. So this was all part of the original plan of turning this into a, a serious obsession slash hobby business, you know what I mean? And building these, when I show you guys on Instagram this cage when I get done with it, this cage, I designed it around my original mentor's cages that he had in his backyard, which were these walk-in screen enclosures with bins on each side with bearded dragons and Cuban rock, uh, Cuban iguanas, and what else did he do? He did all kinds of rare iguana species from the islands and stuff like that. And when I was a kid, it was my dream to have this shit in my backyard. Like my parents would only let me go so big because it was their house. We lived on an island and we didn't have property. And my parents would only let me clutter so much of their yard with fucking cages, you know what I mean? So when we bought this house, my goal was to build these walk-in enclosures that per se my animals didn't have to be in like a cage or a terrarium or even like these, we got these new habitat cages and stuff like that. They're cool, but nothing beats like a real setup, like real humidity, real sunlight, real plants, real water flowing, sprinklers going off, and just creating the most realistic environment for them, and then to just be able to appreciate them in this environment without handling them, just watching. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this was all part of the plan for more, because
Yeah.
it's not really about the business, dude. It's just the lifestyle, man, of just waking up every day and then just enjoying yourself and playing with stuff that you love to play with and creating stuff
Y-
that you you know what I mean, get to share with everybody else. That's what gets me off is the creating.
You know, and, you know, you've met my daughters and my wife and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
my oldest, she's very that this morning. I was listening to some isopod stuff, and she goes, "Oh, your new obsession." She knows, you know, like, okay,
She
dad's gonna
knows
dive
Dad's
deep
gonna be
into.
tuning into Isopod podcasts
Yeah,
for,
yeah.
for the next 6 weeks until he's got it dialed in,
Yeah,
and then it's
you
gonna
know,
be
and then
on to the next.
yeah, yeah, and then, you know, then with having kid my daughter and stuff, and then my youngest being able just for her to, you know, sit here in awe and see all these different isopod morphs and stuff like that was another, like, pretty cool thing about that.
Hmm. Yeah, another hobby to share with your children.
Mhm.
Yeah, I enjoy that. I like to watch the wonder. I get to
Yeah,
watch
that's
everybody else's wonder for now, but
yeah, man.
yeah,
So,
I
we're
love being
gonna
able to share the
yeah,
hobby. Go ahead, man.
we're gonna close this off with the last question I asked all my,
Okay,
guests
no
and stuff like
problem.
that, and it's, if you had the attention of the world for a few minutes, what would be your message?
Like the entire world,
The entire world, man. Everybody's tuning into Mitch Fathom Davey.
believe in yourself. That would be my message to everybody. Is
Mm,
so many people don't believe in themselves, don't believe in their abilities. They're so stuck in the perception that they have of themselves that they think other people are thinking, is so they don't do what their true self wants to do, if that makes any sense.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
believe
agree,
in
man.
yourself. That would be my message to everybody. Hail self for sure.
No, I agree, man. I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, we've seen it, you know, especially living in this country. It's you know, it's infinite the possibilities of what you can do. you know, and
It
I
is,
think anything's
especially
possible
here.
for us. Yeah, yeah. I
And
think
you
the
have to believe
human
in
mind.
yourself.
Hmm. For sure, man.
I'm trying
Yeah,
to teach that to my wife right now. She struggled. I'm sure she probably won't like me sharing this, but she struggles, with like believing in her abilities. And she is so smart and so talented, and it sucks to watch. I try to teach, but it's very hard to teach people how to love themselves or to believe in themselves because they do a lot of self-condemning to themselves, and it's hard to get them out of that repetitious pattern. Um, but I know I will stick like glue eventually with her. So I know that, not just her, but millions of other people struggle the same way, and they keep themselves stuck in these positions in their lives because they lack the self-love and the self-confidence.
yeah.
So
And then also
that's
too,
why that's my
sometimes,
message.
sometimes the support you have around you, right? Like she has you, your wife, you know,
Yep.
she has you to, motivate her and acknowledge smart and motivated person, right? Some people
Yeah.
don't have that in the world, but don't let that hold you back, right? I think anybody's capable of doing anything in this world.
Exactly, man. And that would say be my message over and out. You know what I
All
mean?
right, man. Thanks. I want to thank you again for taking your time for staying up late with us tonight.
I know, man. This is
Um,
2 hours and 21 minutes of my prime REM sleep. Not
it's
gonna be
gonna
the same tomorrow. I'm just
the morning's
teasing.
gonna come early tomorrow. It's gonna come by
Yeah,
quick.
I know.
Um,
I'll still
you
wake up
know,
at 4 though.
yeah. I want to tell everybody that your Instagram, your Morph Market, it's in the description. If they want
Yeah.
to your animals, your stuff like that.
Hmm.
Any other last few words before we say goodnight to everybody?
No, dude, I just appreciate all the people watching, and hopefully they gained something. I'm sorry we didn't fully get into everything, but you know, um,
There'll be part two, part three. They'll
oh,
definitely
okay.
dive
There'll
deep.
be a
We'll
continuance.
definitely,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah, we'll
Yeah,
definitely
no.
dive deep into like maybe husbandry or morphs and stuff like that. Like, 'cause I think sometimes it's not enough time. You know.
Yeah, no, honestly, I thought 2 hours was gonna be long, and I'm like, oh, well, we didn't really cover everything we thought we
Yeah.
were gonna talk about, and it's 2.5 hours later. See ya.
Yeah, that's what
But
happens, man. All right.
yeah.
Good night, everybody. Make sure you guys hit the
Peace.
like button before you head out. Subscribe to the
Like,
channel.
follow, Alvaro. What?
We go
What?
everything.
Scaled
Everything.
success. Scaled success. Sorry, Alvaro.
That's all good, man. It's all good. All right. Good night,
Good
everybody. We'll see you guys on
night,
the next
everyone.
one.
See ya.
Mitch, don't end the call yet.